Hello and good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Winecoop. I'm the librarian at Robert Eaglestaff Middle School. And I was encouraged by Ms. Chambers at Ballard High School to kind of dive into this a little brave before perfect. I've been using Desmos for a few weeks with my students, 6th through 8th grade, in our English language learner classes and in our special education classes as well. And so what I thought I would do is just first put you in the driver's seat. There is a link in the chat. The link in the chat, you have 3 options. Once you click that, you can continue as a student without logging in if you'd like. You can also sign in with Desmos if you already have an account. If you'd like to create an account, if you anticipate using Desmos and you would like to do that, you can. You don't need to for today. So just know that that's an option for you as we move forward. A little bit about the crowd we have here. We have a few teachers from Ballard High School. Thanks for joining us from lots of different disciplines, which is really cool to think about that, the application of this tool. And also there's quite a few Seattle Schools librarians in the house. So woo woo, here we go. There is no cost for Desmos that I'm aware of. I haven't run into any costs for myself. So in fact, thanks, Kelsey. That's excellent segue. If we head on over to, I'm going to move you on over to slide 2. Just a real quick, what is Desmos? It's started out as a free online graphing calculator. And math teachers use Desmos for all kinds of things that are mind-boggling to me. I actually tried to add a feature the other day that required coding, and I have basic coding skills, and it blew me out of the water. So I abandoned it. But the large majority of what you can do in Desmos can be applicable across all disciplines, because Desmos Activity Builder allows you to use tools to create classroom-based activities in a series of screens that allow you to walk students through interactive activities. And that's one of the reasons that certainly at Eaglestaff, we have begun to use Desmos beyond the math classroom. I use it for my library lessons. Our language arts teachers are using this for creative writing, and they're creating poetry right now, and it provides a really unique opportunity to let students interact with what you're teaching, and also gives them a chance to potentially self-pace, to come back to work, to continue to work on it. And there's some really great potential for how we could use this across multiple disciplines. There are a lot of math features we're not going to get to, and that's okay, because that's not the intent of this particular training. So what I will do, I also appreciate Danielle Gleit is a math teacher at Ballard High School, has been using this in math to a far greater extent than I have, and she's in the chat also. I see that she has said there's no cost for Desmos, so just reaffirming that cost question. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to move you through our activity for today. This is an activity I did this week with our 6th grade language arts classes. You can see that the very first slide that you're on in Desmos shows me that Cal is the only one who's answered our question with a 45/9. I can't hear you.
Rebecca, I'm going to pause you for a second.
Yeah.
I'm still staring at your what is Desmos slide. Oh. Should I be looking at something else?
No, thanks.
Okay.
All right. So I want you not to follow my screen. I want you to be in your Desmos right now. So you're on that tab. You're in the Desmos tab that you've joined. So you should be able to, and I will, just in case you need it, I'll go ahead and make sure that you can see what I'm looking at. You can always toggle between these two, but for this first part of this, I want you to be in that Desmos tab. I just want you to have that student experience before we start to think about it with a teacher lens. So the first slide gives you a graph. You don't know much about this, but it says, after 1 month, what do you notice about our Project Lit windows and mirrors? These are reading responses students are giving, and this is a total. So take a look at this and answer one of the 3 questions. What do you notice? Is it fair? Does 6th grade have an advantage? And who do you think would win? Thanks, Danielle. Looks like maybe 6th graders have more people. Sarah says maybe 6th grade has an advantage. Miss Coacher says 6. Miss Coacher, which question are you answering with 6? 6th grade?
Yes, I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Yep, you're answering 6th graders would potentially win. It certainly looks like it. Yeah. High level of engagement. So based upon our responses here, I'm just going to real quickly check my summary and see. Sarah, if you have something you'd like to add to your thinking, please do. And Cal, if you'd like to add something to this, please do. That would be great. All right. Right now, I'm going to ask you, right now you're restricted to screen 1. I wanted us to pause with our do now and have a conversation. So come on over to slide 2, because we've talked a little bit about Project Lit, and come on over to slide 2. You should be able to click the little arrow in the top right-hand side that takes you to the next slide. And I can see that a few of us haven't made our way over. So Anne and Sarah and Darcy, if you could click on slide 2 and come and join us on slide 2, that'd be great.
Here is no joke on the call out.
Oh yeah, we'll mess around. We have, I promise, if you have other things you need to manage, please do. I was just trying to model a little bit of how we use it in the middle school setting.
I like it. Keep these participants.
I'm a little bit lost, but I'll get there.
Okay. Darcy, you can always ask questions either in the chat or turn on your mic. I'm here for you. On slide 2, you'll see the top 4 titles in Project Lit for January. Your job is to slide those tiles up or down and put them in the order you think that they actually had 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Which title had the most windows and mirrors submitted all the way down to the 4th. So go ahead and slide them up and down. Thinking about our ranking, what do you think would be most popular with students? And I'm looking at our overlay, and I'm seeing that no one has chosen Scythe as number 1. I can tell you that is true.
Scythe wait. I chose it.
You did? Oh, you just did.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Looks like we're kind of all over the board here as far as what we think might happen. I can tell you, and if you'd like to change your answers, you absolutely can, that Wonder was number 1 with 15 responses, followed by El Defo with 2, followed by Twins with 10, and Scythe was 4th with 8 for January. So if you're interested in any of these books, we can definitely have time in just a minute to get into the catalog and look for them. All right, we're going to go ahead and move ourselves over to slide number 3. Come on over to slide 3. Don't worry if you do get lost and you cannot figure it out. I always have the ability to grab you all and bring you over using pacing. Bring you all over to slide 3. So now here we have some links, right? And we need, just as a reminder, we have Destiny Discover. We can get print materials from school. We can use Libby for online ebooks and audiobooks. We can use Hoopla for streaming graphic novels. And today we're going to explore the Project Lit folder. Now I'm going to pause you all there because you're not all members of my Schoology page. So clicking the link to the Project Lit folder might not be very fruitful. I can, however, tell you that we use this activity for students to spend 10 minutes in the Project Lit folder to explore the resources that were in there. And then we're just going to pretend that you've all had your 10 minutes to explore that folder. And I'm going to ask you to come on over to slide 4. And based upon your exploration, which one of these tools do you find most helpful? Which one of the tools in our Project Lit folder did you find most helpful for you as a reader? I'd like you to vote for one. And of course, if you like more than one, that's totally fine. Which one do you think you'd use first or most often? Awesome. Thank you all. I can see, some of us are changing our minds. Totally fine. For sure. 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 students who have completed that. Thank you. And I'm just going to check in really quickly. Looks like Sarah maybe wasn't able to stick with us today. That's totally fine. Sarah, you can click on the link and always rejoin if you'd like. Oh, I see. Sarah maybe joined twice. I got it. That happens occasionally. A student forgets a password. They have to join again. You can always, I'll show you later, sort by name, and that helps you better track how many accounts there are in Desmos. All right, thanks for voting. It does look like the picture of all the books and the new Project Lit titles with trailers has tied. We're going to play a real quick game. On the next slide, hop on over to slide 5. Your job is to guess the title of this book.
Rebecca, can I put a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Lisa asked this, and I was wondering the same thing. When it says, can you click share with class, or should we click share with class, do you as the teacher see students' responses before they even click share with class?
Yeah.
Okay, and then if you click that, then they're making it available for others to see.
Yeah, it usually shows the first 3, like it limits how much the students can see.
Okay.
So if you wanted students to see everything, you would have to share your screen as well.
Okay. But even if a student doesn't click share with class, you would see whatever they've written.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
Robin, we can answer the class question. I will explain to you, right? We're going to spend 3 more minutes on this, and then we'll hop into that. I will definitely address that issue as far as classes are concerned. Yeah. Okay. So we have our votes. It looks like some of us think, oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. Go ahead and vote. You should be on slide 5. Slide 5, there's a picture of a book, and you are trying to decide. I would give you time to use Destiny Discover or the Project Lit folder to try and find the answer if you didn't already know it. Looks like 8 of us think it's from the desk of Zoe Washington. We have a couple that maybe haven't voted yet. Come on in and vote. Thanks for doing that. All right. So for sure, this is from the desk of Zoe Washington. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag you all through the next few slides. We do this again with Becoming Isaiah Dunn in screen 6. I then move from another multiple choice into, go ahead and hop on over to slide 7, where the students are then, I would love for you to write in really quickly what you think the title of this book is. My clue for you on slide 7 is that the title is actually somewhere on the cover still. You just have to look very closely. And then I have the ability to click on Becky's response, and I can leave instant feedback. Great job. I can send that directly to Becky, and only she can see it. Do you see it, Becky?
Sure do.
Awesome. That's great. All right.
Is it possible
Moving ahead.
for you to reply to that?
Yes.
Oh, I think I might have to have an account in order to reply.
Right. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. But you do have the ability to give instant feedback if a student's writing, if they've submitted something, you can provide in the moment feedback, which is really nice. It's something that if you do set up classes for your students, it's something that both you and the student can go back to over time. If you start a draft on Monday and you come back to class on Thursday, you can go straight back to the same Desmos. You can go straight back to the same draft. It's all there. And then just a quick peek on slide 9. Come on over to slide 9, the very last slide. We're going to skip our author visit announcement. I do a 3-question check-in every time I see our kids, and that was our exit ticket for today. So I'm going to leave that there and go ahead and have you all really quickly come back over to my screen. So come back over to Teams so that you can see what I see. And this is the point at which I'm going to back out just a little bit so that this is the teacher basically dashboard. If I back out, if I have an account, you can use your Seattle Schools email, works just fine. It's really great actually, especially for collaborative partnerships, because you can add teachers as collaborators to your lessons and you can build them together. It also would allow, for example, if Kelsey and I were co-teaching, it would allow us both to see the dashboard. both to see which students were in, which students were progressing through the slides, which students had responded. We can both respond with feedback. So there's a couple of different ways you can set this up. I work with quite a few teachers. I work with all of our language arts department at Eagle staff. So this is my class page, because all of our language arts teachers have set up their class pages and I'm a collaborator with them. So you can see they all did it a little differently. I had to ask some of them to go back and add their names, because it can be hard when you actually assign the Desmos. It can be hard to look at a list of other people's courses if their name isn't on it. They all say period 5. I don't know which one that is. But you can see here I have all of the classes with the teachers that I work with. Now, in addition to that, I have created 2 classes with both our 2 of our special ed classes and 1 of our English language learners classes. I created that course page because it wasn't being used by the class teacher. So I just wanted a place that we could come back to as a class each week, and created that course page myself. It's actually really easy. You just click add new class. And I have not added the students myself. We go through having the students add themselves just like you did today. There's a link you can provide to them once you've created the activity. The students add themselves. Once you have everything set up, then the students are able to log into Desmos and also click their classes tab. They could see math. They could see language arts. They could see library, whatever it happened to be. So it does take a little bit of work right up front, usually just the first or second time, to get everybody in and have everybody on, and then they can come back to it over and over time.
So Rebecca, I'm just going to repeat this so I make sure that I understand this correctly.
Yeah.
So I go on, let's say, with a group of second graders, and I'm assuming that if they're using an iPad, this is still going to work because they've got a link.
Yeah.
So they respond and they get themselves on this page, and then when I leave, that class will be populated with those students.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then we mentioned earlier, like there were 3 Sarahs in the class because 1 Sarah had left and then come back in. If a student forgets a password, they can always create a new account. The funny thing we found out in middle school, because, we forget our passwords all the time, that it actually doesn't matter if it's a real email address. You can put in any email address, because we have the kids drop the 1 off of their Seattle schools email address and it works just fine. So there are ways around that, but you may end up, for example, with 3 Sarahs. And I'll show you in just a minute when we get to the management of a class, how you would know if Sarah was in class, if she has 3 accounts. So unfortunately, there's not a way that I'm aware of, Danielle, to remove a student once they're in. Do you know? Like if they have more than 1 account?
You can't necessarily remove them, but you can hide them.
Right. Yeah. So the hard part is you don't necessarily want to hide them if they're maybe using multiple accounts. You just want them in class, right? So we'll go through that in just a second. The other way that you can do this is to just click on custom activities on the left. This is basically where you can start working on designing an interactive lesson using Desmos. And so I'm going to click on custom and I'm going to click on new activity. And I'm going to title my link Practice with SPS. And I'm going to create this new activity. You see here I said anyone with a link can view. So I want to be able to share that link and have anyone join. You can add a description that might help if you're planning to use this for students to come back over time. The description will help them when they look at the list about what is there. And yes, sarahteacher.desmos.com is how you would do that. Oh, I see here in the calculator. Nice. So I'm going to create this new activity. And when I do that, if you're not a math teacher like me, when I first looked at this totally freaked me out. I was like, graphs. And like media, like I just looked at this graphing calculator. I had no idea what I was going to do, but it's actually, there's a few simple ones that I use and I just get really creative within that. So the first thing is if I have a question or a prompt, if I want to use text, I add a note. So I click on note and I say our do now for today is open your, let's see, no, I don't want to do that. In your notebook, please write down the book you are oh, I don't want to do that either. I'm sorry. I'm not very good on the fly here. I'm going to say do now, and then I'm going to make this a multiple choice. We're going to do it. How are you feeling about the book you are reading? That's my prompt, right? So I've added that, and now I need a list of multiple choice options so that they can respond to my questions. I click on multiple choice, and I can add good, bad, awful, right? I can add, you can decide what you want to call them. You can also use images. If you want to add an image as an option, I can come in and I can pick an image and add an image as an option. And then you also, one of the really great things about Desmos is it is ADA compliant, and it does have built in, it does have, anytime you use an image, it prompts you with a box to include a description of the item that is in the image. So if you have any students that are sight impaired, this allows their reader to actually read and explain or describe the image in front of you. I'm finding I have 2 students that are sight impaired, and because the reader reads while I'm talking, it can be really confusing. So we're still working the kinks out for sight impaired students to find out if maybe with one student they want me to include the description. So working one-on-one with that student and their support staff to make sure that I'm doing it the way that's best for the student. Because can you imagine your teacher's talking, the reader's talking, your classmates are talking, and it's just too much. So, but it does give you the option too, if a student's going to come back and do this independently, you'd absolutely want the reader to be able to find the text that supports the image. So I have my list of choices here. I'm going to actually remove that image just because it doesn't fit with our do now this morning. But here I can ask the student to explain their answer. And if I do that, that was like on that very, that was, oh, I can't remember which, oh, the question you answered where you answered which of these tools was most helpful for you, it also asked you to explain why. That is this box. If you don't want that, you just want them to be able to click a box, you can uncheck that and it will only list those 3. So the last thing that I'm going to add here is a media, a piece of media. So I have my note, I have my multiple choice, and I want something that's going to catch their eye. I want something that's going to be there. So I have a little folder where I save any media that I'm using, for example, and I maybe am looking for something that has some movement. And you can download GIFs, you can make it just a picture, like it really truly can be whatever you want it to be, and you can add your media, and then you can preview this. So I threw my 3 things on there. What does this slide look like? Because I'm looking at it now and it looks super clunky, right? So if I click preview, you can see exactly what it looks like for the student. I might decide, gosh, I want my picture on the right-hand side. Or I want my list to be in a different place. You can just X out of that. You can just drag your item around until you find the spot where you want them. And then I could preview that again, and you can see how I've moved those pieces around. So that's the preview piece. When you're ready to add another item, you can click on the box. Some of the things you can, if you want a student to respond to something, if your question is, what are you reading right now? That's my note. That's the teacher text. And then you want to add a text input. Where do you want the students to put their answers? So if I preview that, the question shows up at the top, the box shows up right below. Anytime your students are able to answer a question here, you have the ability to offer them in the moment feedback. So I'm going to really quickly, I'm going to close this. I actually am going to open a new tab because I don't want to lose our spot there, but I want to show you what it looks like as a teacher when you give them a response in that moment. So if I go back to our activity for today, I told you that I typed a response with Becky when she answered Nixia. So if I go back into this assignment, there's the link that I copied for students. That's what I put in the chat. A lot of our teachers will post that link on their Schoology calendar. We have a calendar at the top for every week, and they just put it right in the calendar. But once I'm in, I can go back and see, here's Becky. Becky completed slide 1 and 2. She visited slide 3. She completed 4 and 5. Everybody skipped 6. And here's the slide. You can see right in the corner, there's a little corner piece on that. That shows that I've responded to the student in some way. And so I can click on that, and over here you can see, this is where you would see the back and forth, the communication with the student. And you can see their response or their writing or whatever it is on this side over here. So that's just it's kind of a cool function. I've watched our language arts teachers really work with students in their writing, and it's in the moment, and it's fire, really, truly, to watch kids get that instant feedback. And if you have the bonus of a co-teacher with you, right, then you've got twice as many people that are helping and working with students while you're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our activity builder, because the things that we've covered so far, right, are how to use the note field. That's basically your teacher, it's your instructions, right? Media for any videos or images you want to embed in the slide. We used the multiple choice. You could also use checkboxes. Checkboxes, you're essentially doing the same thing as multiple choice. It's just going to allow them to check more than one. There's an ordered list. The ordered list is what we all did together at the beginning, where you were sorting those 4 titles. The interesting thing about the ordered list, one of the things Desmos doesn't do, as far as I understand it, is it can't combine a graphic with text. So you can't have in one box a picture of all 4 books and then the books listed below for sorting. You have to put them in separately. So first, you would go in, for example, and go into media, choose a file to upload. If I'm going to do a sorting activity, for example, I might choose this one here with our 8th grade LA. So now I have my picture, and then I'm going to get rid of this component. You just click on the 3 dots and it gives you the options. I'm going to get rid of my text input. I'm going to get rid of my note and my checkboxes. And what I want to do, I want to talk about the ordered list, right? So then I'm going to add the ordered list. I might want to make sure I don't type them in the same order in which they actually appear, if that's part of the work you're doing. So if I type in early departures, and I type in Sadie and Felix after, and now if I preview that, you'll see this is what students see. They're going to see the picture or whatever 4 items you want them to sort. And then you would have your sorting box next to it. So you do have to plan when you're thinking about this, plan in components, the visual versus the text component. And then you want to think about how you want students to respond. Are they using checkboxes, multiple choice, an ordered list, or the text input where they would be writing and responding to you in that way? I will tell you my little button story. This is my, oops, I'm neither a skilled coder nor am I a mathematician at my age. I love math, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, you know, it's not one of my strong suits. I would need to practice more. But if I click on button, I thought it was so cool. I thought I could give them the exit ticket. I could ask them to click on the button that says I'm done. And then I would get a report of all the kids that were done with the exit ticket. Well, it's not quite that simple. There's a lot of coding that goes into actually getting the button to work. So the very first Desmos I did, I added the button and students kept clicking it and nothing would happen. And we just had to laugh because I just wasn't prepared for the coding that was actually required to make the button work. But for everything else we've used, your note, your text input, multiple choice, checkboxes, ordered lists, and media, all of that can be used simply by clicking and then dragging it over to make it look like you want it to look. So lots of potential for all kinds of ways for students to interact. The one thing I want to show you is that once you're in, you can see right here, this is the activity we did earlier. These 4 boxes are orange. It's because I'm pacing you. Right now I'm restricting you to these 4 boxes. When you came in, I had, and I'll show you how we do this. You can stop pacing, so there's no orange boxes. If you click on pacing, it allows you to select your box, and I can restrict to screen 1. I always restrict to screen 1 when kids are coming in because I don't want them to wander off right away. Maybe though your due now is I want you to explore the next 4 slides. You have 15 minutes, right? It depends on the nature of how they're entering class, but all you would have to do then is increase the pacing. So if at one point you wanted them to the other thing is that once you're in, so I have my pacing here. The other thing is that once you're in, if I turn off the pacing, but I want all of a sudden, I want every single student maybe you're on all kinds of slides. Right now we have 3 people on slide 9 and 5 people on slide 5. I can click on the slide that I want them to go to and restrict to slide 3, and it pulled all of those people from the beginning up. So you have the ability to move students. I'm like 6 of one, half dozen of another. Like pedagogically, I kind of feel like that pulling them there is like little preschoolers on the rope line where you're like, come on, we're going. It's time to leave the park. And they don't really want to go. But that, also using the call out occasionally, you can choose, right? Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Kelsey, for joining me on slide 9. Or you can say, hey, Lisa, where'd you go? Right? You can choose which way you look. The other thing is when you're in your Desmos, there's the summary option here. Summary option, that's how you see all your students that are in class and what they've completed. So that's really helpful. The other thing we talked about was multiple accounts. If I change time entered to sort by name, now it's going to sort alphabetically, and now I can see my 3 Sarahs, and I can look more closely at what may have happened there. My guess is that Sarah number 1 decided, oh, I want my own account, and then Sarah added themselves and continued, right? So you do have the option to hide that student. Danielle mentioned that. If you realize over time it's just taking up space on your dashboard, you can do that as well. I realize there are a bazillion questions and your mind is probably reeling. Before I take questions, what I really want you to know is I was asked by our 8th grade language arts department to start using Desmos, and I got a real quick tutorial from our department head, and I just started to tinker. I really just started to use it and think about it. I still make mistakes. There are ways to copy lessons. The last thing I want to show you though really quickly, which is what do you do when you've finished designing a lesson? Like how do you then get it to where it needs to go? And so I'm going to go back. This is the practice lesson we've been working on. And in order to, if I'm ready, you can, first of all, you can go through, and I would recommend you go through on the preview and click through every slide to see if it looks the way you want it to look, right? Just like PowerPoint, for example. And then when you're ready, go ahead and publish that. And when you publish it, now you can see here's my activity page, and the assign piece is where if you have your classes, if you've already created classes, you can then assign. For example, this is what mine looks like. So I told you it was a mess because not every teacher's named their class the same thing. But if I click assign to classes, this is what my list looks like. Second period language arts. Whose? I don't know, right? Because the naming convention, if it's just your classes, right? If you're, for example, if you're a language arts teacher and you have 5 periods of language arts, you can name them whatever you want. That makes sense to you and your students. Because I'm co-teaching with so many people, we're working on the organizational structure here. But then all you do is you click the box where you want to assign those to the classes and click assign. So if you create one slide or one Desmos that works for all 5 periods, you can assign it to all 5 periods and be done. No copying and pasting, and then you'll still have it in separate classes. You'll still have different students in each class. It's not going to lump it all into one. The other thing you can do, especially if you're a librarian and you're not maybe using the class function, you just want the interactivity of Desmos, is use the single session code. And the single session code is what I gave you when you came in today. And if I click on that, for example, you can see here, it gave me a single session code. I can click on view the dashboard, and then this allows me to copy that link. And Sarah, you're absolutely right about using the in the moment for translations with bilingual IAs. You absolutely could use that feedback function for that. That's a really great use of that tool. I have not, I apologize, kept up on the chat, so I would love to just pause for a minute and I will go back and answer any questions you have to the best of my ability. I will say one more thing. We have a high degree of alignment at Eagle Staff. So it was really, when our math teachers were using it, we have Sarah Rubio, who's our department head. She is ridiculously amazing. She's like, oh, you could totally use this with language arts or social studies. And she just kind of rolled it out. And so it took a little while. It took us about a month to get all of our language arts classes on Desmos and to start think about it. And our social studies department is just now starting to use this tool as well. Our admin, wink, wink, for those of you who might work with Mr. Weinkoop, our admin has been using this in staff meetings as a way to not only give staff a chance to play with the tool, but also to model the use of this technology with our staff. And so that has been really helpful. And we just decided that this was working best for students in math, and we wanted our students in we didn't want them to have to be on 15 platforms. We wanted them to be able to be have the expectation or the same platform available to them in all of their classes, or as many as possible. We all know that science is a bit of an outlier, and occasionally they do their own thing. So they're on OneNote in our building, which is totally fine, and not using Desmos, but just about everybody else is right now. Okay, now I'll pause and I'll take any questions you have.
Okay, so I've got a question about the single session.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say I work with 4 second grades. And I use that single session code. Is it going to create a class, or is it just for that? I just want to make sure I understand how the architecture.
If you're not muted, can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
We're getting a hard echo.
I feel like I'm on Get Smart in the Cone of Silence.
Oh.
Okay, so I've got 4 second grade classes, and I want to use that one code, this one lesson with them. Is it going to create classes from that then, or how is that going to work?
So with the single session code, Anne, you would want to create a single session code for each class. So if I go back to assign and I click single session code again, it's going to give me another one.
And then could you call it Aerosmith's class, Regalato's class, for instance?
You know, let's just give this a try, because sometimes when you copy, Desmos lets you change the title. But let's just give this a try, because I don't actually know the answer. If you click on the title at the top and you go to the activity.
Do you know the answer to that question? Can she do that? No. Oh, she's saying no. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Once you have named it, then it's going to keep that same name. So for you, Anne, like you might create a class that is second grade. And then for each one of those, you can create second grade, I don't know, Aliverity, second grade Klug, second grade Shipe, right? So that you have, that's for you how you organize it. You could also create managed classes, and you could create second grade, but then you can have sections within that. So you could have second grade, Aliverity, Shipe, Klug, Chambers. Does that make sense?
I think so. So essentially, you still would recommend creating classes for this because it's.
I would, because I think it's for you in the end. It's going to be easier to manage and organize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing this for the first time with kids, let's say I did this practice with SPS with second grade class. I get the code, and it's a different code for each of those second grade classes. Then when they log in with their email, that they will be populating that class. Boom, done, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would want to, under classes, for example, if I add a new class and we do practice with librarians, right? I can add that class.
Mm-hmm.
And then it should be down here, right?
Yeah.
So then I could go up, and if I go back to my custom practice with SPS, now if I click assign and I assigned a class, I can go down and I can choose practice with librarians.
It's kind of like Seesaw in that way.
Yeah.
You know, where it's got a similar feel to it. Okay.
Yeah, and I, for elementary, I think that the interactive nature of it is really great, right? That they don't necessarily have to leave the Desmos to engage in the activities that you're doing. It's not like I do have kids go and fill out a form because we use the form, like I have my data for every month since September in one form. So I do take them out for the form, but you could create all of this in the Desmos.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that they can use their Seattle School District email to sign up for this? Oops.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to. I'm wondering if a lot of second graders may not know what their email is. I'd have to check with the teachers.
And she said that they can all join just like we did, just by typing their names in.
Okay.
And be guests.
Okay. So they don't have to necessarily. That part I guess I didn't understand. So they like we did. I thought I joined with. There was that option because I joined with my Gmail, but I guess there was that option to just join as a guest.
Yeah, that's what I did, and that was sort of what I was thinking too. Is anybody who's second grade or lower, that's not going to happen. Email is something they understand at all.
Okay. So if they join as a guest, then do they become a class member after that first time, or is it just a one-shot deal?
For the guest, it's just a one-shot deal.
Got it.
Right.
That might be the way to go for the younger kids.
Rebecca, you were saying though it doesn't matter if it's a real email address, right? So it's basically they're just using that as their username.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like students have to navigate to their email to sign up. It's just they're typing it.
But they still have to understand the @ symbol dot something something.
Yeah.
And that's not something that they understand.
Rebecca,
Okay.
2 questions. You have a hand up with Lisa Kocher, and then you have Kelsey Klug's question about slides and folders in Schoology. So Lisa was first, then Kelsey.
Okay, Lisa.
Oh, thanks. Well, my question's kind of like Kelsey's. My question is like a student view. Like, do they just see each activity, or does it come in a folder? What do they see?
That's a great question. Danielle, do you happen to know what it looks like on the student end?
What was the question?
Yeah, sorry.
So what's the student view, Danielle? Like, what do they see? Do they see activities or classes, or do they see it in a folder? How do you organize it on the student end?
If you have a class set up, or just
yes.
I can show you, Lisa. So if I click on, I'm going to actually look for Amanda's class. This is what students see when they get into their language arts third period class. So they see all of the lessons that have come before.
So, and they log into Desmos.
Yeah.
Can you embed that though in Schoology?
You could.
Lisa's kids, I lose them. I do 3 clicks and they're in the wind. So.
Well, so what we, like, if it's your lesson, Tuesday, when I open class, just like I did with you today, I give them the link for the day. I just dropped that in the chat. You could embed a link to the lesson on Schoology. I don't think you can embed a link to the course on Schoology.
So you start in Desmos and take them to Schoology back and forth with links, but you don't, no?
No, they literally, they log on to their class, right?
But your Project Lit folder, do they just have another link open?
That was just for today, right? Like that example was just for today. Yes, they would be going back and forth in that instance.
Okay, because typically in Lisa's classes, in almost all my LA classes that I work with, they go back and forth into the Schoology folders to get the materials.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelsey, did your question get answered?
Kind of. I guess I'm wondering if part of the benefit, one nice thing about using OneNote is that then you can refer back to previous units and there's structure embedded there. So, there's a tab for the unit, and then with that unit you can see multiple different lessons. Whereas this, it seems like it's one very long list and you'd have to scroll back through and you kind of have to remember where.
It seems like Danielle has a response to that.
Okay.
I use OneNote and Desmos. And so I also like that in OneNote, it's the structure, the unit, the lesson, whatever. And I do my daily overview in OneNote. And so what you could do in OneNote is just have your link for that day. Or what I did today was we were working in Desmos and I had 1 or 2 example problems that I wanted to do. And so I said, all right, everybody, we're going back over to OneNote. And I just shared my OneNote screen, did the examples, and then said, okay, let's go back to Desmos. The other thing is, as you do activities, yes, they show up in this list, but kids can go back to them and revisit those problems or revisit those activities as well.
They go back in through this class space.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
so at Eagle staff, right, if their math teacher and their language arts teacher and their social studies teacher are all doing Desmos, those classes would show up. And then when they opened the class on Desmos, this is the list. A couple of things about what I love about Desmos compared to, we're talking about students who, the truth of the matter is OneNote is a hierarchical organizational structure, and it's something that we're used to as adult learners, and it's not necessarily something that's easy for students to navigate. So one of the things that Desmos does is you can see, even on this example, that there's images associated with the front page of every lesson. And that visual cue is really helpful for a lot of our students. Oh, it was the day that there was the wizard and he was doing the thing with the books. And they're like, oh, there it is. And they can go back to it in that way instead of just having to read through. But it also it does essentially the same things. It's just chronological at this point because they get posted by the date in which you do them. Just think about what you name them. How, if it's a poetry unit, use poetry. If it's, just be real intentional with the naming too. But I think that the visual nature of Desmos, it really supports a lot of our very visual learners as well.
You've got 2 hands, Rebecca. You've got Anne, and then you've got Lisa.
Okay, Anne.
So I just want to throw another, for instance, out there to see if I can get my brain around this. You know how we have the Washington Children's Choice nominees? There are 20 of those books. And I'm wondering if I could, for example, post them on the different authors reading their books, for example, on a slide. So slide 1 might be this book, slide 2 would be this book. Kids could click, and then assign them, kids would just get the link so they could self-pace. Is that correct use of this?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see some problems with Seesaw in doing stuff like this. And, it's hard to do multiple posts on a single Seesaw. The links, they just get kind of wonky. And at least for me. And so this seems like it could be a little cooler. So, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Lisa, and then I'll answer Tuesday's asynchronous question.
Oops. Thanks, Rebecca. So when you were talking, it made me think of, I'm trying to think of it, is it each activity is a daily lesson, or could you create an activity and then it's an actual unit or the whole week? And then can I plan out the whole week in one activity, or can I go back to the same activity and add slides to it?
It's harder to add slides to an activity once you've created it in Desmos. It's not, you would have to make a copy and then add to it. But Danielle's saying, I don't think that's true. That's been my experience, but that's okay. I appreciate the faces. I'm used to the faces. It's okay. So Danielle's saying you could potentially go back and add to it. I have been copying a lot of things that other teachers have created, and like we're adding things, and so it gets a little bit wonky. Once something's been published, it's been harder to add to it, but I could be wrong. Danielle?
Yep, sorry, I was responding to Kelsey in the chat. So what you can do up there, if you hit edit your activity, it'll take you right back in there, and you can edit and you can click and drag slides. You can, do any of that. You can add a slide, you can delete slides, and then you just hit publish. And what it'll do, so if you, and I've done this like between class periods, like something went awry second period, I went in that 10-minute break, switched it, and then it'll tell you dashboard below are for earlier versions of this activity.
So because I've had that happen where I wanted to change a date and time and it didn't change it because I was using the older version. So it does create a new version, right? Yeah.
It does, but it doesn't like copy it. It'll like replace the version.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you could do it like Lisa, your other question, or answer the other part of that question was you could totally do it lesson by lesson. You could also build it out for a unit, depending upon how you were going to do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I also have elementary brain, and I'm thinking about how our kids are so visual, and the ordering thing would be so much more helpful if we could put an image in there, but it looks like we can't do that. With the multiple choice or the choose one or the checkbox thingamajigger, is it possible to put images next to those? So like if we're choosing, I don't know, Battle of the Books or picking Washington Children's Choice, can we add pictures to those? Because my kindergartners can't read.
Yeah, so let's just go in really quickly, and I'm going to throw in just a couple of images here so you can see what this looks like. We'll put one there. Again, you can type the title there as well if you want. You can also add the description, and then if we click add another image, I'm just going to add, I don't know, a couple more, just so we can see what it looks like. And then I browse down and I add one more image. Wide variety of books here this afternoon. And then if we preview that, there's they would just be able to click that and you can see the little checkbox shows up.
That's exactly what I need. Thank you. That's going to make voting on Washington picture books so much easier.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
And then where does that data go?
So the data goes back to, let me just show you real quick. I'm going to close that. I'm going to pull up one of my activities from earlier today just so you can see what it looks like. So if I go back to my classes and I had Miss Richards' 5th period today, and I click back into this lesson. If, for example, I wanted to know what was most helpful for you, this is where that data is stored.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is so easy to read.
Yeah. Kelsey.
Thank you.
Is there a way to then combine the results from multiple classes into one? Okay, so you would just have to go through by hand and like tally it up if you wanted to get a full picture. Okay.
Yeah. What other questions might you have? Lots of great thinking. We have high school math teachers and elementary librarians in the room. I do love that we're all finding something about this that's just like getting our brain on fire. I love it. Lisa.
Rebecca, you have Anne first, actually.
Oh, okay.
Then Lisa.
Anne.
Okay. So let's say the kids are doing this asynchronously. Asynchronously.
Good luck.
Okay, big mouthful. Let's say the kid is in 1st grade, and I've got a Washington Children's Choice thing, and they want to look at it over time. Would they just come back to it using that code every time? Is that?
Yeah, they can come back using that single session code or that link.
Mm-hmm.
If, for example, let's say you posted it on a teacher's, post it on Seesaw.
Okay.
They could click on that over and over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Lisa.
My question is, like, I love the real-time feedback. And then I guess I'm thinking, because I use OneNote as well, and I really can look at their writing and give feedback, and I feel comfortable in that. And so I'm wondering with Desmos, how often do you go back, like let's say last week or the week before, and look at their stuff?
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna hop in. Let me see if I can. This is like totally needle in a haystack. I'm just gonna hop into these reading flash drafts for language arts. This is an 8th grade language arts class. That's not it. Sorry, hang on just a second. Oh, sorry. I want to go back into manage classes. That's why I was having issues there. We'll look here. I'm not actually sure which one of these has student writing in it, so we're going to see if we can find one.
Looks like slide 5, maybe.
Slide 5 is the rubric. I was looking for something where there might be a response from the teacher. Let's look at the summary here. That'll tell me better. So this one, you can see you've got this, proud of you. There's like that piece. I'm not going to be able to quickly find an example of the writing. I do know that certainly for our 8th grade LA, when they're writing here, I was in class one day when they were just finishing, and the link was put back in the chat. The kids went in, they went to their writing, they copied and pasted it and submitted on Schoology. But that all of the editing and all the writing had happened on Desmos. That was just the formal way in which it was submitted.
That's awesome. Rebecca, do you think they would be open to like letting a visitor come and watch one time when they were doing that?
For sure. I'd be happy to put you in touch with Amanda Renicky, is our department head. And I'm sure she'd be delighted to have someone visit.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
Even seeing some examples, like even seeing this, Rebecca, I'm looking where it says highlight any line that hints at what the author is arguing. Like seeing where the stumbling blocks are, like how math does it, like they can see where, oh, they made a mistake here. Seeing, oh, they highlighted this and that's not evidence, that's right. That's where they're confused. So I'd go back and teach them where to highlight. And then so it's just even seeing examples of people's stuff, I think is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to share that, but.
Well, and I think some of that, Lisa, I'll put you in touch with Amanda, and the two of you could even I'm sure, because she's the one who was like, I'll show you how to do it. And she sat me down and we started, playing with it. I'm sure she'd be willing to send you, because you can send you can share copies of your lessons with people. And so you could even ask specifically for examples of the writing process or, highlighting and thinking. And she'd be able to just collaboratively, once you have your own Desmos account, you can share copies of lessons with people.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And yes, Sarah, I will publish the link for today. Just reiterate that it's like a thinking session, really just a chance to get in and dig around and think about the jobs we do and how this might support our students.
That's great. That's our vibe at my school. This is how I do tutorials. We play with them together and we just sort of like talk about what went wrong. And it's more immediate and more effective, to be honest, than a really scripted and perfect presentation with little interaction. So
Okay. You have two questions, Rebecca, from Anne and then Danielle, or maybe Danielle is. Anne, you're muted.
I should have taken my hand out. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Then Danielle.
Cool. So yeah, I'm just curious. Have you had students like create full-fledged writing pieces in Desmos and given feedback and like have them, and then they just compile all their pieces into a document and submit elsewhere?
Me personally, no. Students at Eagle staff with language arts teachers, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. It's so interesting to like look at where Desmos started and think about how much it's been adapted. And I mean, honestly, anytime you can give students the familiarity of a platform, it's such a benefit to be able to provide that. And then the content is a little bit more easy to get to. Yeah.
Kelsey had her hand up, but now it looks like it's down.
I was just thinking, there was a question earlier that I don't think was answered of, can students create Desmos presentations if they were doing a student project for a class? Could they create theirs in Desmos?
I believe so, yes. Once they have that account.
Okay. Yeah, I think you would just tell them to go to teacher.desmos.com, log in with their account, and it should take them, I would assume, to the same dashboard. So as long as, I mean, depending on if you want to like teach them how to use it or if it's like someone that could play around and figure it out. But yeah, I think that would be really cool for students to be able to create interactive presentations for their classmates.